Handome, a Netflix mystery movie, follows a detective named Gene Handome, played by Jeff Garlin, who you may know from Curb Your Enthusiasm. Handome is an LA homicide detective who is surrounded by a crew of mildly incompetent detectives. He's a decent detective, but leads a lonely life with only his dog for companionship. The movie has a decent set of supporting actors, including Hansome's hyper-sexualized partner, played by Orange is the New Black's Natasha Lyonne, who plays almost the same character. The setup is simple. They find a severed head whose body parts have been arranged into a Star of David. They never show that part. Handome notices that the victim is his neighbor's babysitter, so with this lead he sets out to solve the crime. Through the story, Handome ends up inserting himself into the neighbor's life, and we see that Handome is ultimately confused by the prospect of being intimate with another person. This movie starts off by immediately breaking the fourth wall with an intro taken from a 70s detective show, wherein Steve Weber introduces himself as the villain of the episode. There's a faux James Bond type intro with a girl hula hooping, and a narrating voice delivering the title of the episode. I like this gimmick. I wish they would have continued it through the movie. The comedy's pretty good, but there weren't any scenes that made me burst out laughing. Some of the comedy is similar to that Curb Your Enthusiasm style, where the comedy happens in a close personal space between two characters as they test each other's personal quirks and share their odd opinions with each other. A lot of Natasha Lyonne's comedy is more sexual and situational. I think Jeff Garlin and Natasha Lyonne have different styles, but they work well together. I also liked Hansome's incompetent crew of underlings who don't know the first thing about solving a crime. I thought they were great, but we only get 2 scenes with them. Amy Sedaris has a few scenes where she makes obvious sexual advances at Handome. These were great. I really appreciated how the comedy didn't directly clash with the narrative of the detective story. Sometimes these movies go out of their way to deliver obvious setups for comedy. These setups felt very natural, like these conversations would happen organically. I think this comes from Garland's comedy style. So, there are a few problems with this movie. Not all the jokes here are knockouts. That being said, none of them fail miserably. The movie changes tone about halfway through and becomes more about Hansome's loneliness and inability to be intimate with another person. I would have liked it better if they had kept this as a subplot and kept the focus of the movie on the detective shenanigans. I think the biggest problem for me is this movie feels rushed in the third act. Handome finds the last piece of evidence, and instead of gathering the whole crew and piecing everything together for the audience, he just goes in for the arrest. Once the scene starts, it all happens very quickly. None of this was handled poorly, but it feels like we needed another scene or two to solidify Hansome's theory, or something like that. Maybe just another scene for laughs. Everything just wraps up so quickly and neatly. Overall, I think Handome is a decent low-budget comedy. It has some funny moments and enjoyable characters. If you're a fan of Curb Your Enthusiasm, I think you'll enjoy this movie. That being said, I think this will likely be forgotten in a year or so. A lot of these Netflix originals feel like they're missing a little something, and Hansome's no exception. I don't know if it's the fault of budget restraints, editing, or writing, but Handome needed a little extra polish. This movie's passable, but I wouldn't rush to watch it. A strong first act, but unfortunately the movie trails off a bit, and the ending still feels a bit rushed.